This is Gene Tunney in New York. I'll ask Jack Dempsey to come in from Buffalo right away. Did you hear the bell, Jack?
Coming up, Gene.
I understand you've got a very promising fighter up there in Buffalo, Jack.
Yes, Gene. I'm handling a boy named Bill Boyd, who's got a fight here tonight, and he looks like a comer.
Incidentally, Jack, I'd like to tell you that you're a much pleasanter fellow on the sending end of a microphone than on the sending end of a left hook, and I'm speaking from experience.
You know, Gene, every once in a while, just to see how it feels, I throw a left hook at myself, the kind that you would throw at me, except that I make it a soft one and step out of the way real fast.
Fleetness of foot, Jack, was ever more desirable for the gladiator.
Is that from Shakespeare, Gene?
No, Jack. The way Shakespeare said it was, to duck or not to duck. That is the question.
I like it better your way.
Well, Jack, when anybody gives me the edge on Shakespeare, I'll take it. Just between two ex-champions, when did you get the biggest kick out of boxing?
Gene, I got a kick out of it all the time, but I guess the biggest thrill was that 2 or 3 seconds waiting for the bell to start a fight, any fight. After the referee gave his instructions in the center of the ring, turning around, walking back to my corner, and waiting for the bell.
Oh, boy, I know that feeling.
I never heard a sound in those few seconds, Gene. I never saw anything but the fellow who was across the ring from me, and I guess he wasn't seeing anything but me. That was the big thrill for me. Now, what do you miss the most, Gene?
Well, Jack, I'll tell you what I miss the least. It's those left hooks to the solar plexus and those rights behind the ear. Also, those meals you got when you were training for a big fight and the trainer thought you were a few pounds overweight. After 8 or 9 miles of road work, round a piece with 4 or 5 sparring partners, a session with the light and heavy bags. After all that, there's nothing like a nice thin lamb chop and a large helping of spinach to make a heavyweight prospect cry like a baby. And then the trainer says it's healthy.
But it's still spinach.
But 10 or 15 years later, I still remember how hungry I was.
Gene, there's one thing I'd like to say to you now. 11 years after the second Dempsey Tunney fight, when I lost, I'm glad I lost to a square shooter, a great fighter like you, and that's from the heart.
Jack, thanks a great deal. Coming from probably the greatest champion of them all, that means a lot to me. And I know you'll join with me, Jack, in what I'm about to say. To any young listeners, let me say that if you want to be an athlete, a champion tennis player, a baseball player, football player, wrestler, or boxer, the way to start is by developing a strong, healthy body, and that comes from temperate habits. Don't try to do any of these things strenuously unless you've laid the foundation.
I certainly agree, Gene, and I don't think that any boy should take on sports without his parents' or doctor's advice. Take it easy. In the fight game, we call it bringing a boy along slowly.
That's right, Jack. And I want to say good night to a great champion.
And to Gene Tunney, I also say good night, champ.